Good evening and welcome to South Carolina ETV and South Carolina Public Radio's live broadcast of the governor's 2026 State of the State address. I'm Gavin Jackson at the State House in Columbia. In just a few moments, Governor Henry McMaster will enter the House chamber here to give his annual address to a joint assembly of lawmakers. This is the governor's 9th and final State of the State address as the 117th governor of South Carolina. This time last year, he became the state's longest-serving governor, and we expect him to recap his 9 years of accomplishments, thanks largely to his relationship with House and Senate lawmakers, whom he will address shortly. By the end of his term next year, he will have served 10 years as the governor. And that followed his ascension from lieutenant governor in 2017, when then-Governor Nikki Haley was confirmed as President Donald Trump's first United Nations ambassador. Now that we're still waiting on the governor to walk in the House chamber where we can maybe get a shot in there. And that's when we're going to see House Sergeant Mitch Dorman introduce him to a full chamber. As you can see right there, and our folks on South Carolina Public Radio, you can't see, but it's a full House chamber with all 124 House members and 46 senators. And while I haven't seen the speech yet, we know that we will hear his priorities for the legislature, many of which he has already outlined in his executive budget proposal that was released earlier this month. Now, lawmakers take that budget proposal under advisement and in prior years have passed many of those priorities, something that has been a hallmark of McMaster's tenure as governor. A strong working relationship, not adversarial like previous governors, though they all have their own little taste, but with the legislature, and that's resulted in funding and policy wins that all can take credit for. And again, we're at the beginning of this new session, so we're going to see how that plays out. And again, he'll be laying out those priorities to all these lawmakers shortly. And it all kind of goes back to the governor's 3 C's: communication, collaboration, and cooperation, which undoubtedly we'll hear about tonight, and maybe some other 3 C's perhaps. We'll find out. But we expect him to discuss economic development wins, tax cuts, making teachers starting minimum salaries $50,000, which has been a years-long effort, school safety, conservation efforts, and more. So we're still waiting for the governor to get into the House chamber, where we'll hear him introduced by House Sergeant Arms Mitch Dorman. And again, lawmakers have just been in for several weeks now. We're still actually, I think, under a state of emergency as a state because of that winter weather over the past weekend. So this will be a first for the governor to be addressing at this juncture. But of course, states of emergency are not something unheard of for the governor. He's led our state through multiple natural disasters during his tenure, which again started back in 2017, including hurricanes Helene last in 2024, and then of course Hurricane Florence and Dorian both in 2018 and 2019. So a lot of things that the governor has accomplished, not to mention 2020 with the pandemic, which was a huge trying time for our state. Now we are going to the House chamber where Mitch Dorman, the House Sergeant at Arms, is introducing the governor now. No, I'm hearing 2 different things now. We're still waiting for him. But of course, we expect this speech to last about 45 minutes to an hour. Again, this is the governor's final State of the State address, so I expect him to recap a lot of things that he's done, including major job growth, economic development, and prosperity. This comes on the heels of new census data that shows South Carolina growing, the fastest growing state in the country. And that's something that governors have helped work towards, and Governor McMaster has been one of those who has helped cement that too. So we're going to go into the House chamber right now.
Just hold on, we got to answer. No, we got to answer for it first.
And if you're listening on the radio, we're waiting for the governor to walk into the House chamber. It's a little back and forth here. It's a very fluid situation, but everyone's pretty excited since this is his 9th and final State of the State address. And here's Mitch.
Please come to order. Sergeant.
Our Honorable Governor and his escort committee has arrived.
Members of the Joint Assembly, please remain standing to receive this excellency, the Governor and his distinguished.
And what you're about to hear, if we're going to get that audio, it's the governor walking into the House chamber. All right, the governor's walking into the House chamber right there with his escort committee. It's made up of House and Senate Democrats and Republicans walking in with him, some of the prestigious members of both chambers. He's shaking hands, walking in, saying hi to a lot of familiar faces. And this is, again, his annual address to lawmakers as well as the entire state and dignitaries who are seated in the balcony too. He gives a lot of shout outs to them, including some of his family members. And this again is the governor's chance to impress upon lawmakers what his priorities are for the legislative year, which in many cases go hand in hand with what the Republican supermajorities in both the House and Senate are angling for this year. That's right. After the 2024 election, the Senate became a supermajority with 34 Republicans and 12 Democrats. And that is already something that is that's already a distinction that the House has as a supermajority too. So the governor's walking in right now in the House chamber. He's about to take the dais. We'll give his speech. It's about 45 minutes to an hour long. And then after that speech, we're going to have the Democratic response from Jermaine Johnson. He's a representative from Hopkins here in Richland County. He's also running for governor, but he's not going to be mentioning that in his speech. It's just a Democratic message. It'll last a couple of minutes after that. And then, of course, after that, we'll be doing interviews with lawmakers who are in the chamber with the governor. I'm going to say it's probably my favorite part of the night is talking to lawmakers about what they heard the governor's speech. And again, like we've said, the governor has a great working relationship, especially with the Republicans in his party in the House and the Senate to get his legislative priorities accomplished, which are in turn theirs as well. So he's taking the dais right now. As well, you can see if you're watching on TV, that's Senate Finance Committee Chairman Harvey Peeler following the governor, and he's shaking hands with folks. You can see Senate President Thomas Alexander and House Speaker Merle Smith. They're wearing their ceremonial robes. All the finest for the governor's annual State of the State address. Again, his 9th and final as the 117th governor of the state. We're just standing by right now. He's taking it all in one last time. Again, this will be his biggest speech before we see him leave office next January, when we'll have a new governor being sworn in. And again, McMaster being the longest serving governor in our state's history. And at the time will be 10 years to his tenure because of how he ascended as lieutenant governor for Nikki Haley and became governor in 2017 when she became United Nations ambassador. So we're just standing by right now. He's taking some photos with House Speaker Merle Smith and Senate President Thomas Alexander, who's about to introduce him right now, it sounds like.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the General Assembly and honored guests, as we gather tonight to receive the Governor's State of the State, I believe that it is fitting to acknowledge that this marks the 9th and final State of the State address from the longest serving governor in South Carolina's history. Further tonight, I believe it appropriate for us to pause in order to give thanks to this governor for his dedicated service to this state, the state that he loves, and for his tireless efforts to make South Carolina better and stronger today and for the generations that follow. I am very proud to call him my governor, and I'm even prouder to call him my friend. Governor, thank you for your great service to the state of South Carolina. Now it is my honor to present to you the Honorable Henry Dargan McMaster, the governor of the great state of South Carolina. Governor.
Thank you. Thank you. Be seated, please. This is wonderful. What a great group. It's an honor to be in this place. Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the General Assembly, justices of the Supreme Court, my fellow South Carolinians. We are here tonight to address successes, challenges, and opportunities. But first, as in prior years, I'd like to recognize those in uniform whom we lost in the line of duty last year, 2025. Deputy Nathaniel Michael Anseh of the Florence County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Frank Devin Mason of the Darlington County Sheriff's Office. Trooper First Class Dennis Dwayne Ricks Jr. of the South Carolina Highway Patrol. Deputy Fire Chief James Jimmy L. Townsend of the Moncks Corner Rural Fire Department. To the families and loved ones of these brave South Carolinians, we offer our condolences. We're eternally grateful for their service. I'm delighted to have with us once again tonight our First Lady, my bride Peggy, our son Henry Jr., his wife Virginia, and our 3-year-old granddaughter who's at home, Margot Gray, 11-month-old grandson Henry Dorgan McMaster III is also home. Our daughter Mary Rogers, her husband Sam Herskovitz, and our 3.5-year-old grandson James Dorgan, and 16-month-old granddaughter Lucille DeBose, known as Boosie. Will you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. Also, our Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett and her husband David and our state constitutional officers are here. Will you all please stand and be recognized? And finally, will the current and former members of my administration, including cabinet agencies, gubernatorial appointees, executive staff from the governor's office, and the governor's mansion and gardens, please stand and be recognized, please. I want to thank you all again. You're doing a great job for our great people. 9 years ago, I had the honor and privilege of being sworn in as your governor, our state's 117th. The people of our great state expressed their confidence in me twice by allowing me to continue serving them in this position. My family and I thank you all. A few years ago, I asked you a question. What will South Carolina look like in 100 years, 100 years from now? What will we look like to ourselves and the rest of the world? Well, tonight I'm here to answer that question. Ours is a state of commerce, conservation, and consequence. We know that our prosperity depends on our economic strength, educational excellence, and environmental heritage and health, each of which supports the other. Challenge, change, and innovation come fast. To succeed, we must be ready by nature, spirit, and ability. And I'll tell you, we are. We are ready. We are unique. Our state is one which once stood 1/2 beneath the waves of the mighty Atlantic Ocean. It bears the footprints of the French explorers and Spanish conquistadors. And 10,000 years before they got here, and up until this day, holds the presence and culture of our Native Americans. Into this land came men and women from 9 European countries, Christian and Jew, 19 West African cultures, which now comprise 4 West African countries. And over the years they came, first a few, then hundreds. Some came rich, mostly poor, some black, some white, some free, some enslaved. They came by choice or command, in rags, riches, or chains, but they came and they endured. Unlike any of the other colonies, ours was to be an agrarian paradise, It was influenced in its infancy by the cultural tradition of England's 17th century colony of Barbados, supported by natural abundance of our lands and waters, and embraced by a most determined people. We thrived. An official report to King George II in 1739 said, and I quote, "This town," referring to Charleston, "and province," referring to South Carolina, "may truly be esteemed the most flourishing of any of His Majesty's dominions in America." And it was. Our course of South Carolina, unlike others, was charted by the most skilled hands of the law, by the writings of John Locke and the legal acuity and acumen of our signers, learned men of experience and vision who were educated not by reading law, but in the Inns of Court in London, willing to give their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to the new nation they were creating, and so proclaimed in the Declaration of Independence in 1776 to the world, and then in their covenant, a constitution for the people in 1787. Out of 8 signers of those documents combined, 7 of them were graduates or attended the Inns of Court in London. We had more lawyers in our colony during the colonial period attending the Inns of Court for their legal education than any other colony. Not by numbers, but by sheer willpower and determination did our people defeat the British Southern Campaign, thereby signaling the end of the Revolutionary War. We thrived greatly and thereafter rose from the devastating ashes of 1861 through 1865 like a phoenix determined to survive. Our state has lost sons in every war, world wars included. We've lived through pernicious piracies, the bombardment of Charleston by the British in 1780, the burning of Columbia in 1865, as well as dozens of epidemics, 2 pandemics, one recent, and a bountiful procession of hurricanes, tornadoes, droughts, and floods. Our people have endured and struggled through a Great Depression, recessions, and threats and acts of worldwide terror, and all the while, from then until now, holding fast to their families, their faith, their traditions, and their love of this land. Today, this place and people we call South Carolina bathe in the respect and even envy of other states in this country as we chart our remarkable course of commerce, conservation, and prosperity. We know what needs to be done and how to do it, and we will. Yes, because this is the South Carolina century. Recently, I wrote to the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, inviting them to join us for Carolina Day, the state's annual commemoration of the Battle of Fort Sullivan, which this year will take place during the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. Starting this year and in years to follow, South Carolina will have a unique opportunity to celebrate the decisive role we played in the fight for American independence. There were more than 200 battles and skirmishes fought in our state, more than any other colony. Many historical sites still need markers today, including the camp of General Francis Marion and his patriots in the PD Swamp. The British couldn't find it, and neither can we, so far. Many scholars rightly say the war was won here. So did Sir Henry Clinton, the commanding general of all British forces in North America. In his post-war memoirs, he wrote that the defeat at Kings Mountain, where Major Ferguson died from a bullet to the head, and that's their Major Ferguson, an event which was immediately productive of the worst consequences for, end of quote, for General Cornwallis, who was the leader in South Carolina, and was, quote, the first link in a chain of evils that followed in regular succession until they at last ended in the loss of America. Cornwallis is not quoted anywhere. They suggest quotes, but he said, "It is over. we cannot defeat South Carolina. Our state's history and culture are unsurpassed in the creation of this nation. It's well documented in books and by hundreds of historical markers, monuments, buildings, and homes dedicated and preserved to tell our state's wonderful story. The names of our towns, streets, institutions, rivers, and families carry that history forward to this day. Few states, if any, can match the natural beauty, bounty, and variety of South Carolina, from the mountains to the sea. And few can match the elegance and craftsmanship of the historic homes, churches, synagogues, and other structures found in our land, including Beaufort, Charleston, Georgetown, and Camden, built during the times when Mother Nature herself was the fount of all our prosperity. Today, when business leaders from around the world measure the assets of our state, they remark on our people, the character and nature of our people themselves. Visitors do the same. They sense our people's loyalty, patriotism, kindness, and steadfastness. They see the natural paradise in which we work and live. They see the historic confluence of our Judeo-Christian and military traditions, and they like what they see, sometimes more clearly than we do ourselves. We have become known as the handshake state, where your word is more valued than any signed contract. I saw the chairman of BMW twice, 5 years apart, say, in South Carolina, I'd rather have your hand in mine and your word than a signed contract. In the last 9 years, by working together through collaboration, cooperation, and communication, we have created our own great chapter in the illustrious history of our state, South Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, the state of South Carolina, our state, is an outstanding example. Today, our economy is strong, creating large budget surpluses year after year. Last year, we announced over $9.1 billion in new capital investment and more than 8,100 new jobs in both rural and urban South Carolina. I'd like to recognize several of the businesses which announced their confidence in our people by their substantial capital investment in 2025. If the leaders will stand as I name their company, we will respond after everyone is standing. In Allendale County, Hampton Lumber is establishing the company's first sawmill on the East Coast, creating 125 new jobs with a $225 million investment. Welcome, Mr. Brett Griffin, Senior Vice President of Manufacturing, Hampton Lumber. In Pickens County, Ehring Klinger, an automotive supplier, is expanding its main U.S. battery hub operation with an additional 294 jobs and $68.5 million investment. Welcome, Mr. Wilfried Hawk, General Manager, Ehring Klinger, South Carolina. In Clarendon County, Hominit USA, a leading manufacturer of wood materials, is establishing its first U.S. manufacturing operation. The $250 million investment will create 300 new jobs. Welcome, Mr. Alfred Geiger, President and CEO of Hominit USA. In Greenville County, Isuzu North America is investing $280 million, creating more than 700 jobs to establish its new U.S. production base that will assemble medium and heavy-duty trucks. Welcome, Mr. Noboru Murakami, there you go, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Isuzu North America. In Spartanburg County, Woodward, Inc., a global leader in energy control solutions for aerospace and industrial markets, is establishing a South Carolina marketing facility with a $200 million investment and 275 new jobs. Welcome, Mr. Colin Rorabaugh, Vice President, Product Management for Woodward. Thank you and welcome. Since 2017, we've announced over $53.7 billion in new capital investment and almost 100,000 new jobs. Why? Because state government is in superior fiscal shape, our laws and policies are business friendly, our income tax is shrinking every year, and our population continues to grow. We're investing in the right things, in education, public safety, workforce training. We're preserving and protecting our lands, natural resources, and cultural heritage. And our infrastructure and energy demands are being met with planning, foresight, and commitment. When the pandemic came, you remember we took a road less traveled by and relied on common sense in the Constitution. Other states faltered. They took the wrong road. We've soared. Some of our businesses had their best years ever that year. Yes, South Carolina's future prosperity requires that we constantly work to create, innovate, and improve our efforts in all endeavors. Here's how. We've made tremendous progress improving our roads, bridges, highways, and interstates. Today, there are almost $7 billion worth of active projects underway across the state, up from $2.7 billion in 2017. In the last 4 years, we've added an additional $1.4 billion to state budgets for new construction. However, inflation is here. Inflationary construction and labor costs threaten to create crippling delays and busted budgets. It is critical that this year's budget invest an additional $1.1 billion in new surplus money to keep these projects moving and on schedule. Our population, last year, the U-Haul rental company ranked South Carolina as the #1 destination for their moving trucks and vans. I believe it. Left unaddressed, we will face future problems with water, sewer access, traffic congestion, road and bridge repair, demand for electric power generation, public safety, school overcrowding, health care, availability, and everything else. Therefore, I submit to you that time has come and reality requires that we seriously assess whether our state's infrastructure and government services will be able to catch up with this unrestrained, out-of-state population growth as it continues at this rate. We must act. On tax cuts, we must continue to have them. Until a few years ago, we had the highest personal income tax rate in the Southeast and the 12th highest in the nation. Not anymore. 5 years ago, I signed into law the largest tax cut in state history. As a result, South Carolina taxpayers have kept an additional $1.275 billion of their own money in their own pocket. This year, I have again proposed cutting the personal income tax rate as much as we can, as fast as we can, and as often as we can. And if the General Assembly can find a way to eliminate it altogether, I will sign it the second it arrives on my desk, and that's a promise. Education. One time all roads led to Rome. Today all quests for prosperity lead to education, straight through the schoolhouse. All of our children must receive an excellent education. Albert Einstein said, a problem can never be solved by thinking on the same level that produced it. He's right. And by thinking big and being bold, we have made some of the most important decisions and investments we've ever made in early childhood, primary, secondary, and higher education in this state. For example, 8 years ago, the minimum starting salary of a teacher in South Carolina, the minimum starting salary was $30,113, and the average salary was below the Southeastern average. I proposed then that we begin raising the minimum starting teacher salary as much as possible each year, with the goal of raising it to at least $50,000 by 2026. That's now. Each year, we raised it. We should keep raising it. This year, we will raise it again, going from $48,500 to $50,500. This will represent a 68% increase since that year 2017. South Carolina's required minimum starting teacher salary continues to exceed that both of Georgia and North Carolina. And ladies and gentlemen, that's good. In addition, as the minimum salary for new teachers has risen, so has the average salary of a public school teacher in South Carolina, reaching $64,050 last year. $64,050, which exceeds the Southeastern average every year since 2021. We are making progress. As a result, vacancies in teaching positions at our schools, public schools, have plummeted, and learning has thrived. 4K, since the statewide expansion of full-day four-year-old kindergarten program, known as 4K, which started in 2021, enrollment in the program offered in the public schools, private child care centers, and private schools has increased significantly. We expected that. Statistics show that a child from a low-income household enrolled in a state-funded full-day 4K program will be better prepared for kindergarten than their peers who do not participate, and will do better. Today, 18,411 students are enrolled in 4K, which is a 30% increase since the program was expanded. Currently, every public school district in the state, except one, is offering full 4-day kindergarten, and the demand for enrollment at private daycare and private school 4K providers continues to grow. From experience, not just statistics, we know that 4K works. Children who succeed in kindergarten are better prepared to succeed in first grade, second grade, and in third grade. And we know if third graders are proficient in reading and mathematics, they are likely to be successful in high school as graduates of high school. Not only should we increase funding, but I urge the General Assembly, I urge you to soon offer universal full-day 4K for all children, regardless of household income in our state. 2 years ago, we created the Education Scholarship Trust Fund. It provides scholarships to eligible low-income parents. This allows them to choose the type of 4K education environment and instruction that best suits their child's unique needs. Parents love these scholarships, and demand for them continues to rise. We should continue to expand eligibility by increasing the number of funded scholarships each year. Healthy competition in the education marketplace is the true key to excellence. Placing an armed certified school resource officer, known as SROs, in every school, all day, every day, has been one of my top priorities, as you know. In 2018, only 406 of the state's 1,283 public schools had a full-time school resource officer. School districts couldn't fund additional SROs, and local law enforcement agencies couldn't find new officers to become SROs. At my request, you began funding a grant program administered by the Department of Public Safety to provide local law enforcement agencies with funds to hire resource officers to fill these vacancies. This grant program worked. Every public school in our state now has funding for an SRO. Everyone has the money, and all but 102 have an officer in place. That is great progress, and we are unique. This makes South Carolina a national leader in school safety, provides us all, parents, everyone, us, peace of mind, and enhances learning dramatically. Maybe you heard of this. On November 6, 2025, Chester County Sheriff Max Dorsey wrote to me describing a recent incident at a school in Chester. He wrote, and I quote, "On Friday, October 31st, 2025, shortly after noon, an individual illegally entered the grounds of Chester Park Elementary School of the Arts. The suspect forcefully broke through a classroom window and immediately attacked a teacher in an attempt to abduct a 3-year-old child from her special needs classroom. Can you see that picture? The teacher's courageous resistance. She was pulling the child in while he was trying to pull the child out. That delayed the suspect, but he did manage to exit the classroom and reach the playground area while still holding the child. Now, this is a quote from Sheriff Dorsey. At this crucial moment, our 2 assigned school resource officers, both sworn sheriff's deputies, along with their supervisor, who responded from an adjacent school, immediately engaged the suspect. Their swift and decisive actions subdued the individual and ensured the child's safe recovery. The suspect is currently in custody and faces multiple serious criminal charges, including kidnapping. Max Dorsey said, "Most importantly, I wish to emphasize the decisive role of the school resource officers present that day. The SROs assigned to this school complex are funded entirely through your state legislation, a priority you have steadfastly supported. Without this direct funding through the South Carolina General Assembly, it is highly unlikely we would have had the personnel necessary to respond so effectively. I will not speculate on what might have occurred in their absence, but I am certain that their presence was the difference between tragedy and a successful rescue." End of quote from that letter. With us tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is Sheriff Max Dorsey and the Chester County Sheriff's Deputy SROs and their supervisor who engaged the suspect. Stand as I call your name. Sheriff Max Dorsey, Deputy Richard Griffin, Deputy Sandra Stinson, Corporal Kristen Going. Providing backup that day from off campus, Deputy SRO Wanda Alexander and Corporal Kelly Griffith from the Department of Public Safety's SRO program, who just happened to be arriving at the school for a site visit. Will you please stand, all of you, stand tall and be recognized. And thank you. Thank you. Higher education is essential, as we know, to ensure our state has a trained and skilled workforce to compete for jobs and investment in the future. That means our colleges, universities, and technical colleges must remain accessible and affordable for the sons and daughters of South Carolina. For 7 consecutive years, we have frozen college tuition for in-state students. We began providing unprecedented levels of need-based financial aid for Pell Grant eligible in-state students to attend any in-state public or private college, university, or HBCU. To address our business's high demand for workforce skills, training, and knowledge, we have provided over 120,000 South Carolinians with free scholarships to cover the cost of tuition at any of our technical college to earn a post-secondary or industry credential in careers like manufacturing, nursing, computer science, information technology, and transportation, logistics, or construction. And by the way, Wilbur Ross, who was President Trump's Secretary of Commerce in his first term, visited South Carolina many times during those 4 years and said that the technical college system in South Carolina is the best in the world. And it is, and we're making it better and better and every day. And that is the key to happy lives and successful careers and happy children for thousands of South Carolinians. We are making enormous progress, but the first question remains, in view of the world's ever-advancing technologies and our own growth and ambitions, will we be prepared to meet our state's workforce needs of the future? The answer to that question, I believe, we must commission a serious systemic review of our state's 33 public institutions of higher education. Will they be accessible to our people and affordable? Are they responding and innovative? Are they well run? Should we consolidate schools, programs, certificates, or degrees? And will enrollment grow, plateau, or shrink? Remember, major businesses in the United States and abroad have clearly demonstrated their desire to bring their fortunes and facilities to South Carolina and to employ our people in those facilities. They are, quote, putting their money where our people are, end of quote. What we must do now is double down. We must continue making smart investments in our people to ensure that they are prepared to support and reap the benefits of our future prosperity. Energy, one of the main topics around the world. Future economic prosperity also requires us to have abundant and affordable energy. Questions are, will there be enough all over the country? Our electric generation, distribution, and transmission capacity and capabilities must be able to handle enhanced future economic development, anticipated technological advances, and population growth. 3 years ago, we were looking ahead. We created the Power SC Working Group. We began leading the effort to coordinate the state's energy shareholders to address our state's future needs. Then came SC Nexus Consortium, developed by our Department of Commerce. It's a collaboration with our research universities, technical colleges, state agencies, Savannah River National Laboratory, economic development, nonprofits, and private businesses. Putting that all together put us in a position to win in a contest with all the other states. I think there were about 700 entries for this. There were only going to be 12 winners, and we are one of them. We won designation as one of the U.S. Department of Commerce's 12 regional technology and innovation hubs in the country, and are eligible and have been receiving for research grant funding valued at up to $70 million annually. Our focus, power. We were thinking ahead, and we hit it just right. South Carolina, therefore, will lead our nation's nuclear renaissance. Our early preparations and the decision later by Santee Cooper to restart the construction of our 2 unfinished nuclear reactors at the V.C. Summer Nuclear Station marked the beginning of a national effort. And I'll tell you what we did. All that equipment, many parts, millions of dollars worth, we didn't sell them all off. We put them in big shelters, put them in warehouses. Climate control, they're right there. We've got the power lines are already up. We are ahead of the game, and we're going to get there. President Trump rightly recognized that reinvigorating America's nuclear industrial base is critical, not just to our energy and economic security, but also to our national security. With over half of our state's electricity safely generated by nuclear energy, with 7 operating reactors at 4 different locations, South Carolina has both the experience and the infrastructure needed to lead this nuclear renaissance to provide ample, clean, resilient energy for the future. We are ahead, and we will lead that national renaissance. It's a great day. A few years ago, it became clear that we had a mental health crisis in South Carolina. What wasn't clear was how bad it was. You all knew how people with physical disabilities, special needs, and mental health issues who were seeking assistance, what would happen? They were often required to navigate through a confusing maze of offices, agencies, and officials in languages they didn't understand as they thought they helped for a loved one or a dependent. We learned that 77% of our state's young people with major depressive episodes did not receive mental health treatment. 77%. Suicides had become the routine and not the exception. Homelessness was growing right before our eyes. Our people were falling through the cracks of a system that did not coordinate, communicate, or collaborate. There was no accountability and little to no leadership. At that time, I directed that we initiate and fund an immediate review of our state's behavioral health funding and delivery system. This analysis confirmed what many of us had feared, but much worse. South Carolina, this study showed, had the most fragmented and siloed health and human service delivery system in the nation, with the lowest ranking, causing unnecessary suffering and pain. Unnecessary. Major changes were needed. Accountability was required, so we got to work. The result, working together, we completed the most significant government restructuring and accountability effort in over 30 years. New cabinet agencies were created to bring direct gubernatorial leadership and accountability to our state health care service delivery system. The first step of our restructuring effort came 2 years ago when the commission-run Department of Health and Environmental Control was dissolved and was statutorily reconstituted as two new gubernatorial cabinet agencies, the Department of Public Health and the Department of Environmental Service. Last year, the commission-run Department of Mental Health and the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs were dissolved and reconstituted, along with the Department of Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse Services, into a new gubernatorial cabinet agency, the Department of Health and Developmental Disabilities. I am pleased to report that these new cabinet agencies are now collaborating, communicating, and cooperating, working together each day side by side to improve and modernize access to health care services for our South Carolinians who depend on them. We have our work cut out for us, but I believe the hardest part of this monumental effort is behind us, and we will succeed. As you know, the first duty of government is law enforcement. That is to keep the people safe, our people. We must maintain a robust law enforcement presence and properly fund the police. We are blessed to have the finest law enforcement in the nation, second to none. We began closing the revolving door for career criminals, keeping them behind bars and not out on bail. And our laws have been strengthened to keep guns out of the hands of criminals and to punish those who commit crimes using them. A few years ago, we tasked our Department of Administration with conducting a comprehensive analysis of state law enforcement to ensure that salaries were competitive to attract and retain top-tier talent. It worked. As a result, South Carolina's law enforcement officers have received substantial pay raises, some as high as 52% in the last 3 years. We must continue to invest in our law enforcement professionals, firefighters, and first responders who put their lives on the line every day. A lot of us get up and put on a tie and a coat. They get up in the morning and put on a bulletproof vest. Imagine. We must continue to support them with the equipment, technology, professional training that allows them to protect and serve the public and keep us safe. Our state has the lowest recidivism rate in the nation. It is a testament to the superior leadership at the Department of Corrections. As you know, Director Brian Sterling is there for many years and is now serving as our very excellent U.S. Attorney. Staffing shortages and attrition at our state's prison have been reversed, and sustained pay raises for correctional officers has resulted in the successful hiring of more officers to join their ranks. Investments in facilities, equipment, and interdiction efforts are working, and valuable skills, training, and education have empowered thousands to productively re-enter our communities. The men and women of the South Carolina Emergency Management Division, who worked around the clock with the latest storm, are recognized by their peers in the federal government as the gold standard among preparedness, response, and recovery professionals. Rightfully so, time and time again. Team South Carolina, as we refer to them, has stood in the breach when dangerous and deadly hurricanes, storms, disasters, emergencies, and even a pandemic threaten our state, our property, and the safety of our loved ones. They instill confidence and display competence in everything they do. On judicial reform, we must also ensure that the public has confidence in whom and how state judges are selected by making the processes more transparent and accountable. South Carolina is one of the 2 states in the country in which the legislature selects the members of the judiciary. Recent changes and improvements made by the General Assembly to this process were a good start, a first step in a longer walk that public confidence requires. I'm suggesting to you that our founding fathers prescribed a method for federal judicial selection that has served our country well and with which our public is well familiar. Gubernatorial appointment of all judges with the advice and consent of the state Senate requires no reinvention of the wheel. It will inspire the confidence of our people and will encourage more excellent attorneys to seek public service. I believe the time has come to reform the operation of our summary court system, in which over 300 of our state's magistrate judges handle the overwhelming majority of cases that go before a court every day. Our Constitution provides that the governor appoints magistrates subject to the Senate's advice and consent. Each county is responsible for funding and providing facilities in the daily operation of magistrate courts, including the salaries of each judge. This arrangement has led to tremendous financial disparities in how much magistrate judges are paid across the state. Excuse me. In addition, our magistrate judges are not required to be attorneys or possess a law degree. They are only required to possess a college degree, and that has not been so for a number of years. That was a necessary change. Being a lawyer is preferred, but residency requirements and low salaries make this public service unattractive for most. This leaves many counties without lawyers on the bench in magistrate court. I propose a better way. Magistrate judges should be compensated by the state in the same manner that circuit and appellate court judges are. The law should be changed to require them to be attorneys. They should be screened in a transparent manner, and county residency requirements should be eliminated. And the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court should determine how magistrate courts operate to ensure consistency in all of our 46 counties. South Carolina's future prosperity is looking good. Excuse me. There's a lot of talking going on up here. We listen. Yeah, you listen. That's good. South Carolina, you know, one day I'm running out of time, I guess, but I think we ought to keep these things. Shouldn't turn them over, you read them before I even get here. South Carolina future prosperity requires us to enhance our efforts to respect and protect our land, our history, our culture, and our natural environment. It is not a coincidence, ladies and gentlemen, that previous years and current economic growth have followed our efforts to conserve, preserve, and display our unique gifts of nature's abundance in our state. These are not opposing objectives which must be balanced as in a competition, one against the other. Instead, they are complementary, intertwined, and inseparable, each dependent on the other. Each can be accomplished to the fullest if we plan now and we be bold. In recent years, we've provided funds, time, and attention for identifying significant properties for preservation and conservation and for flood mitigation. We created the Floodwater Commission. Its purpose include measuring our strengths and weaknesses concerning the flooding, erosion, and the conditions of our rivers, coast, and barrier islands, and to make recommendations to the state to act upon. For the Commission's recommendations came the creation of a new cabinet agency, the Office of Resilience, and a Chief Resilience Officer for the state. Their mission: to develop plans and studies to identify flooding issues, to deploy mitigation projects, to develop grants for flood reduction, to conduct the voluntary buyout of homes in flood-prone areas, to protect and preserve endangered lands and wetlands, and to take on special environmental protection projects, as was done with the remarkable cleanup of over 1.5 million gallons of hazardous toxins, oil, and other things, tainted ballast and old diesel fuel inside the USS Yorktown in Charleston Harbor. It is clean as a whistle now and will not leak and destroy all those beaches. After the state's official water plan languished without update or consensus for over, I guess, about 20 years, we created the Water SC Working Group, led by a new cabinet agency, the Department of Environmental Studies. We tasked this cadre of stakeholders to quickly complete the plan and provide an inventory of how much surface and groundwater we have and how much we will need in the future. Like the old saying goes, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. I'm pleased to report that the new state water plan was completed and published just last month. We now have a plan. Today we have a veritable army of people, farmers, public and private organizations, as well as local governments dedicated to these endeavors, including the Conservation Land Bank, the Department of Natural Resources, the Office of Resilience, the Forestry Commission, the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, PRT, the Nature Conservancy, the Open Space Institute, the Darla Moore Foundation, the Audubon Society, and Francis Marion University. In less than 10 years, we have preserved almost 400,000 acres of historically or environmentally significant lands, including the state's largest conservation easement in history, which last year permanently protected 62,000 acres of beautiful land in the PD. We have protected our most important historic and cultural sites, including Snow Island, where General Francis Marion's Revolutionary Camp is somewhere located. We can't find it. Neither could the British. And the colonial area Blessing Plantation on the Cooper River. These properties are protected and in the future will become publicly owned, welcoming visitors to enjoy and learn about key aspects of South Carolina's landscape and history. Also included in this newly conserved acreage are African American historic sites, working farms and forests, and new areas for outdoor recreation from the mountains to the sea. Over the decade, we have created new state parks such as Ramsey Grove on the Black River and expanded existing parks in the Midlands and upstate. Among these is the Glendale Nature Park in Spartanburg, which is one of the largest urban parks in the upstate. A significant portion of this land was protected with funding from the South Carolina Conservation Bank, just over $250 million. The investment from the bank has brought in other funding from federal, local, and private sources, exhibited an unprecedented level of efficiency and effectiveness that has been the hallmark of South Carolina land conservation for many years, thanks to all those involved. Importantly, local governments have stepped up on land conservation, collectively investing many millions of dollars to conserve land and create new parks. But of our 46 counties in the state, only a few have conservation funding programs. Therefore, I urge all of our counties to join this effort. I say that protecting our land is a gift for all of our people. With insight and continued hard work, we can achieve the goal, helping private and public property owners with preserving half of their lands for future generations and making South Carolina recognizable as the closest thing we have to heaven on earth. So I ask again, what will South Carolina look like in 100 years? And I'll tell you, our towns and schools will be full of happy, healthy children, eagerly soaking up knowledge and inspiration from their dedicated and innovative teachers. Our young people will be energized with the talents, confidence, and education necessary for them to pursue their dreams. Parents will be confident, building futures for their families in a bustling economy of innovative diversity, from manufacturers to medicine, from agriculture to aeronautics, from art to astronomy, from military to music. We'll cover it all. And the treasures of our lands and waters, from the Blue Ridge to the salt marshes, fields, streams, and forests, will be thriving and preserved forever. It is these gifts inherited by us, to be nurtured, protected, and presented to our people and future generations. That is our obligation. Our state, ladies and gentlemen, is a land of leaders. Leaders in thought, leaders in peace and war, leaders in industry. History has shown that this place is exceptional, just like our country, in which our people played paramount roles in building our country. Let us not stop now. Now I would like to ask you to consider all I've said, and I would like to offer an observation. Our governments cannot and should not ever be expected or even allowed to do everything that needs to be done. It is the individual citizen, his family or friends, who must take responsibility and act. We need leaders. We need leaders. We have leaders in this room, everyone. I'd like to thank several such leaders, among many others, who have provided strong and sustained support for our people, notably in education and conservation. They are Susu and George Dean Johnson of Spartanburg, Darla Moore of Lake City, and Ben Navarro of Charleston. And there's one more I'd like to thank, a lady who has given her time and energies to protecting the children and animals of our state and to turning the governor's mansion and gardens into a masterpiece of beauty and history for all of our people. I'd like to thank and recognize the best wife, friend, and counselor in the world, my wife of almost 50 years, Peggy Jean Maccabee McMaster. Stand up, girl. I love you.
Lucky man.
That's my girl. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. In closing, to all of you, the state of South Carolina is richly blessed with a hardworking, talented people. We stand today in a moment brimming with opportunity and promise. Never been like it before. I have faith in our people. I have faith in those whom they have elected to represent them here in this State House. I have faith in every one of you. Let us celebrate our successful partnership, one that's been based on communication, collaboration, and cooperation, and the love of our state. And if there's anyone here who is asked to visit with me on an issue in my office and they did not get an appointment, that was a bit gross oversight, and you're welcome to come anytime, as most of you do, because you're there all the time, and I appreciate it. Let us continue to think big, to be bold, and embrace civility and comity through our thoughts, words, and deeds. Let's be different from some of these other places. We are different. We've just discussed all the reasons why we're different. We're different, especially the young ones. We have to be models, role models for them, and tell them, for the reasons we've discussed tonight, to be proud of this state. The people in our state for hundreds of years have endured every force of nature and man has devised so far, and we have endured. And I tell some folks, you better respect these people. They've been here. They've been through it. They go to a convenience store or a restaurant, and a sweet old lady is bringing you food or taking your money, and you look at it and you think, that's a nice, sweet old lady. Listen, she and others have been here. Her family may have been here for 300 years. It's the simple people. It's the average citizen in South Carolina. There is no average citizen in South Carolina. We are different. We have built this state over the decades. It is strong as steel, and we should celebrate that, and don't ever let the children, don't ever let them forget that there's not a better place in this whole country, there's not a better place in this whole world to live, work, and raise a family. They need to be here. They need to embrace it. They're not renting it, they're owners. We all are. We need to understand that and tell the world about it. Let us keep our state on a course that will provide for prosperity, success, and happiness for generations. The best is yet to come. I love this state, and I know you do too. That's what drives us. The best, the very best is yet to come. May God continue to bless America and the great state of South Carolina. God bless you, and good night.
That was Governor Henry McMaster concluding his 9th and final State of the State address here at the State House in the House chamber. He's getting a standing ovation right now from lawmakers, all 124 House and 46 Senate lawmakers in the chamber in attendance, as well as dignitaries in the balcony watching on. He's about to exit the chamber. But again, this was his final 9th State of the State address, outlining his legislative priorities as well as what he's accomplished over his past 9 years. And again, he'll be serving his term through next January, making it a full 10 years as governor, being the longest serving governor of our state, the 117th governor of South Carolina, Henry McMaster right there. And right now we are going to go to the Democratic response with Representative Jermaine Johnson. He is Democrat from Hopkins in Richland County here, and we're going to go to that message right now.
Good evening, South Carolina. I'm Jermaine Johnson. I'm a proud College of Charleston alum, and I represent South Carolina House District 52. In Matthew 25:40, Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." So what has our state's leadership done for the least of these? Let's talk about how the people of South Carolina are really doing. Tonight, South Carolinians heard Governor McMaster describe a South Carolina that on paper looks strong. A state with low unemployment, population growth, ribbon cuttings for new businesses, and rankings meant to reassure us that things are going well for the people who call South Carolina home. But is this really how we're doing? The state of our state is not what Governor McMaster described. The real state of our state is what you can find at kitchen tables across South Carolina. Kitchen tables where families are deciding whether they can afford rent or groceries as prices skyrocket out of control. Where families are forced to decide on spending money on school supplies or life-saving medications. For 22 years, Republicans have controlled the governor's mansion, the state Senate, and the State House. Over 2 decades of single-party rule, and the results speak for themselves. After all that time, South Carolina remains near the bottom nationally in the areas that most directly affect everyday life. Our state ranks 43rd in education, leaving too many children without the preparation they need to succeed. Our roads and bridges are among the worst in the nation, with unsafe conditions and long delays that affect families, workers, and businesses across the state. And when it comes to public safety, the numbers are deeply troubling. South Carolina's homicide rate is the 6th highest in the country. But those are just the numbers. Think about what this means in terms of how you are affected. Our neighbors are less safe. Our children are worse educated. And our infrastructure is crumbling. So let's talk about it. 22 years of single party rule. If they truly cared about you, they would have done something already. If they truly cared about you, they would have fixed public education. If they truly cared about you, they would have fixed the roads. They would have created a livable minimum wage. They would have fixed our healthcare system. If they truly cared about you, they would have done something. But with all that power, they have done nothing for you and have only enriched themselves. This moment calls for honesty because leadership means recognizing when policies fail our people and taking responsibility for changing them when the opportunity arises. South Carolina, you have that opportunity. South Carolina is a beautiful state filled with resilient, hardworking people. We hear a lot about growth and success, often framed through national politics or federal debates. But the true measure of how a state is doing can be found much closer to home. We deserve a home where our children are learning, our roads are safe to drive on, our neighborhoods feel secure, and our families can access the care they need. Don't you want a healthcare system that works for you? We should be funding rural hospitals, providing more schools and health facilities with mental health services, and making healthcare affordable. Women across this state have seen their rights stripped from them, with deeply personal healthcare decisions becoming matters of political debate. These decisions affect real families, real lives, and real futures. And they should be made without government interference. We should also be clear about how progress actually happens in South Carolina. New electric vehicle and battery plant projects across the state did not happen by accident. It was made possible by Democratic-led federal investments in clean manufacturing that every congressional Republican opposed. Then they later took credit for it once the jobs arrived. Bless their hearts. South Carolinians understand the difference between doing the work and taking the credit. We are overlooking industries in this state that could create jobs, generate tax revenue, and provide real relief to the people who need it the most. With some of the most fertile soil and hardest working farmers in the country, our state is well positioned to responsibly grow cannabis for safe, legal medicinal use. We have a state lottery that funds educational programs. Why aren't we inviting safe, regulated gaming in other forms to provide our state with millions in tax revenue? Imagine a South Carolina that keeps its focus where it belongs, on the people who call this state home. Imagine a South Carolina where you can drive down a smoothly paved road, drop your child off at a safe, well-performing public school, where you're working one job and not living paycheck to paycheck. Imagine a South Carolina where your government truly cares about you. If we are willing to be honest about where we stand and are fearlessly committed to improving it, then tomorrow can be a brighter day for this state and for everyone who calls it home. Because together, we can change it. And in November, we will build a new South Carolina together. Thank you, and God bless South Carolina.
And that was Representative Jermaine Johnson giving the Democratic message in response to Governor McMaster's 9th and final State of the State address. Now we get some reaction from lawmakers who are in the chamber with the governor, starting with Representative Carl Anderson. Come on and let's tell us what you thought about the governor's final State of the State address this evening.
Well, I thought being it's his last speech, the governor did a good job. He brought a lot of history out. He even included my district, that's in Georgetown. He talked about the nature and the beauty that we have and everything that's going on from the mountain down to the ocean. came down to the coast, and he talked about the buildings we have, the houses we have, the churches we have, the structure of everything that Georgetown County has, along with Camden, Charleston, Beaufort. He talked about the Low Country in its speech. So now, to say all of that, he talked about the educational realm and how teachers' pay have increases as they started. He also talked about how the roads and bridges, we have put several $1 billion there in the road and bridges. He also talked about what we are, and we are owners. He talked about all South Carolinians. We are owners of our state. And so I was just happy to hear him. He brought out a history out over the past 9 years. We want to say thank you, Governor McMaster. Thank you, Ms. Peggy. Thank you, McMaster family, for being who you are and helping us in the nation state of South Carolina.
And Representative Anderson, before we get the House Speaker on, I want to ask you about, you're a Democrat, it's a Republican. How do you describe that relationship when you hear people talk about our Republican supermajorities in the state? I mean, how do you guys work with them to get things accomplished?
Well, we've had a working relationship, and along with our Speaker of the House, we have a great working relationship. And yes, there's a D and there's an R, but to the bottom line, we care about the people of the nation state of South Carolina. We deal with that budget annually because we care about the people that we serve in the state of South Carolina.
Great, thank you so much, Representative. And Senator Shane Martin, come on down. How are you doing, sir?
That's right.
Tell us, you were just in the chamber with the governor. What did you think of his last address? What stood out to you?
It stood out to me with a sense of pride for Spartanburg. I come down here and drive back and forth every day, but working on law enforcement and to hear him talk about the stuff that the subcommittee that I chair on the budget works on, pay increases for our law enforcement, pay increases for our correctional officers, anybody that wears that uniform. It was great to hear the governor say that and realize how much we've done as a General Assembly to recognize that and work together. And the good thing about that is it's bipartisan. Everything that I've worked on in the Senate, it's been unanimous. And Democrats, Republicans, we all support our law enforcement.
Can you maybe give me a little context when we look at his predecessors and how he has worked with the legislatures during his time, and if what stands out to you in that?
Well, it's like the school resource officers. He called me down to his office. I didn't go down there talking about it. He called me and we worked on a plan. He reaches out to us and we sit down and we dialogue. He calls me on a cell phone. I can call him on his cell phone. Go in his office. It's nothing adversarial. It's always in collaboration in what's best for our great state of South Carolina.
And Senator Martin, I know it's the governor's night, but looking forward, we have a primary in June. We have a new governor who's going to be here next January. What do you want to see in his successor?
I think what I want to see is somebody who's willing to work with the General Assembly and those of us who are trying to push these initiatives to get our law enforcement more pay and our correctional facilities like DJJ worked out. Somebody that's going to sit down and work with us and not just try to get a postcard like, hey, I did this. I want them to work with us so we can make a difference and move the state forward. Gotcha. I think if they'll continue that, it'll be great.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think we're going to have the House Speaker jump in on a second. But again, any big takeaways? Are you going to miss seeing the governor around after this past year?
I'll tell you, the thing is, I love the governor. I love cutting up with him. He cuts up with me. We were at the mansion one time. Can I tell you a funny story?
Sure,
so we're at the mansion one time, and it's me and President Alexander. We're the only two senators there. They want us to come stand with them, and somebody says, Senator Martin, go stand by Peggy. She'll make you look good. Governor says, it'll take more than Peggy to make him look good. So
Gotcha.
That's what I love about the governor.
Yep.
He's right here. So
thank you so much, Senator. We appreciate it. Yeah,
appreciate it.
And we got Representative. We got the House Speaker jumping in, but he's got to wait for you, Representative Newton, perhaps, so we're going to take him live. Come on down, Speaker Smith, coming in hot. Speaker Merle Smith. I was going to ask you, you were up there with the governor during his final State of the State address tonight. You've been up there before with him. Was it different tonight? How was it in there in the chamber?
Yeah, it was different. It was not as policy focused, but more about what he has accomplished as governor. And I think that's been a great thing that's happened over the past 10 years. He has been a governor who cares more about the state than his political future. And he is someone that is going to leave a legacy that's going to continue with South Carolina over the next few years.
And part of that speech was a long speech recapping a lot of those accomplishments and things that he has gotten done because he's worked well with the legislature. That's something that you really haven't seen too much of in some of his predecessors, right?
Well, every governor has their own style of governing, but Governor McMaster talked about the 3 C's: collaboration, cooperation, and communication. administration, and that has worked very well throughout his terms being governor.
And he also talked about being different and trying to be different to help attract more people to the state to be, not necessarily in the mold of other states per se. How do you interpret that? How do you approach that? Maybe apply it to legislating?
Well, I think he's talking about growth, obviously, in South Carolina, and we're going to have to control our growth and plan for our growth. And those are things, this just started really post-COVID. I mean, people were obviously moving here, but after COVID, it put the transition on steroids. And so we have to make sure that we're preparing South Carolina for the future, but also keeping the fabric of South Carolina. That's what's very important.
And Speaker Smith, when we start talking about preparing for the future, I was just talking to Senator Martin about what he wants to see in the next governor. Obviously, there's the primary coming up. We've talked about this before, but he's talking about keeping the state on this track, on this growth trajectory. How do you do that in his successor? What do you look for? What should people be looking for, in your opinion, on this?
Well, they need to look for someone that's going to follow the mode of governing that Governor Master had, and that is trying to work with people and bringing people together, not pulling them apart. And that's very, very good for what the state to continue. And you see the legacy of what he leaves. Just look at last year and what he's done economically with $9.1 billion of capital investment, 8,100 jobs. Our growth rate going 3.1% this year, the highest in the nation, and one of 5 states in which the unemployment rate went down rather than up. So South Carolina is uniquely positioned, and it's about how we govern and how we work with one another and how we continue to do what's best for South Carolina and move South Carolina forward.
And just to get the line moving here, and one last question. When you see some of the things that he has laid out for his budget this year and some of his proposals, how much of that is realistic? How much is that accomplishable?
Well, there's a lot of things that we're going to accomplish. We've worked with him throughout these years, and we're going to continue to work with him. And in closing, I want to say, one thing I remember as growing up as a child is the famous line Ronald Reagan asked, how are you better off 4 years than you were 4 years ago? And that is, when you look at Henry McMaster, and you look at his 10 years, is South Carolina better off than they were 10 years ago? And that's a resounding yes, and that's a testament to the leadership and ability of Governor McMaster to bring people together and move South Carolina forward.
Great. Thank you so much, Speaker.
Okay,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Democrat Representative Campbell Garvin, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
We're rolling. Tell me, you're in the chamber. You're a Democrat. We're trying to get a little bit of different opinions here. What did you think of the governor's speech tonight?
Absolutely. So going into tonight's event, I was hopeful that Governor McMaster was going to have a unifying message for all South Carolinians. And I think in his last State of the State, he rose to the occasion and not throwing out the red meat to the base. And I think he achieved that goal. So I was pleased overall with the message that he had. I will tell you some things that I hope that we heard that we didn't. I wish that we heard that we didn't hear. One thing being inflation. South Carolinians are certainly struggling with the high cost of groceries, the high cost of rent, and I wish the governor did address that. But I was very pleased, especially as a former educator, to talk about the fact that we've raised teacher pay from $30,000 when I was a teacher 10 years ago to now $50,000, which is a huge deal. Yeah. I was happy to hear about the SROs that are in our schools now, which were many of those ideas were Democratic ideas that now the Republican Party and the governor have embraced. So I'm certainly happy that the governor has embraced good policy, the policy that many Democrats have pushed for years. And overall, I was happy with the speech, and I think that many South Carolinians back home are going to be happy with what they heard as well. But I will say, last but not least, inflation. Those pocketbook issues is what many South Carolinians wish they heard and did not hear. And I think that's one of the major things that was missing from the address tonight.
Gotcha. And I think Jermaine Johnson covered that in his Democratic message. But again, it's an election year too, so we'll be seeing that played on the campaign trail. So we appreciate it. Appreciate Representative Garber.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, yeah, we got Brandon Newton, Representative Brandon Newton, Assistant Majority Leader too in the House. Tell us what stood out to you in the governor's speech. You've seen several of these. What did you think of his ninth and final?
I think it was a great speech. It's an honor to have Henry as our governor. It's sad to see his last speech, but I was honored to get to be here today for that. I think a couple things: conservation, affordability, and stuff that he talked about, especially about income taxes. It was great to hear him support our plan that is now being passed in the Senate that will eventually eliminate South Carolina's income tax. And so I think that'll make South Carolina more affordable so people can keep more money in their checks every month. So that was a really good thing to hear him endorse, and can't wait for him to sign it.
Yeah, he's talked about reducing income taxes over all of his speeches too. So it's fascinating to hear that, and also see it in action too, because I guess when you see how the governor operates with y'all in the House and the Senate, it actually kind of gets done too. What he says actually goes into fruition. So how have you interacted with him in your capacity to get some of this stuff done? Because, and talking about primaries. I mean, that's been a hot topic right now too, and he's kind of on your side when it comes to we don't need to mess with the primaries.
Yeah, I mean, the governor is truly someone who brings us together, and I think he's done a better job in the last 25 years about anyone that's had his role. And I think, look at the results. I mean, the ability of us to work together, to communicate, collaborate, those aren't just talking points to the governor, those are real. And having a relationship where, my cell phone can ring and it says Henry McMaster, and he's calling to ask me to vote on something in a subcommittee, that's unique. And that's what makes South Carolina special, and it's made him a successful governor in partnership with our caucus and our members.
And then going forward, last question, I mean, it is an election year too. What do you want to see in his successor? I mean, you heard him talk about trying to keep this trajectory going. How does that happen?
I think the key is making sure we're continuing on a conservative path, that we're going to work collaboratively together, that we're not enemies, we're partners, we're in the same party, we believe the same things. And so finding someone who isn't telling you what's wrong with South Carolina, but telling you what's right with South Carolina and how we're going to make it better.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We got Representative J.A. Moore.
How are you? Good to see you.
ETV fame here.
That's
so
right.
great
Good
to see you.
man.
Jay, you're a Democrat. Tell us your perspective and what you heard of the governor tonight, and maybe what you didn't hear or what you did like.
Well, let me tell you what I didn't hear. I didn't hear right now what we're seeing in rural South Carolina. Our farmers are struggling because of tariffs that are happening at the national level. What I didn't hear is still we have egregious issues with underfunding for health care in the state. What I didn't hear is that we still have massive problems when it comes to income inequality here in the state. There's a lot of good things that are happening in the state, and I champion those, especially the stuff that he's done, that we have done around mental health, but there's a lot of still deficits in the state. You got to remember, South Carolina, our #1 economy is agriculture. We didn't hear mention of that. So, that's one of the things I wish the governor would have made a priority in his speech. His last speech, his historic speech, we didn't hear anything about that.
Yeah, and I do remember him talking about that a little bit, I guess, maybe last year because of the devastation of Hurricane Helene in 2024 and talking about how that affected agriculture. But that is the top industry, so I understand that. But what do you think about maybe some common ground where you guys see eye to eye on some things? Anything that stood out to you or going forward?
Well, again, I love the idea of putting more resource officers in the schools. I love, again, the idea of his commitment to mental health. That was big, and we still have a big deficit when it comes to mental health. Another thing I didn't hear that we need to be talking about is environmental issues here in the state. We have a lot of, when it talks about clean water, still have a lot of work to do in that area. But again, mental health is one of those issues that I think is very important, something I've championed since I've gotten elected. And the governor, to his credit, has done a good job, or we have done a good job collaborating with the governor on that issue.
Gotcha. We appreciate it. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Representative Lee Hewitt, welcome aboard. Yeah, got hands. Tell me, Representative, you were just in the chamber with the governor giving his last speech, his last State of the State. What was it like in there? What stood out to you? What are you going to remember about him?
Well, it was a lot of excitement as everybody was there to honor him and all the great things that he has done for our state. And also to talk about the accomplishments that we have done with him under leadership, the conservative leaderships, and all that we've accomplished from, you heard the amount of growth, jobs created, billions of dollars invested, all which are good for the state of South Carolina.
Gotcha. And tell me about your relationship with the governor, how maybe you've worked with him. We've been talking to leadership and other folks. What are some of your experiences with working with the governor?
Well, he has always made himself available, number one. So any issues we've had, he loves the coast, if you've seen through his conservation. He knows that I represent the coast, and he has always been there to help make sure that we continue to thrive as a great coastal community.
And what are you looking forward to this session? It's still very early, but we're off and running. Anything that's that you see moving going through this session?
Well, certainly, trying to make South Carolina a more affordable place to live as we address, making sure the families have more money in their pockets through that, lowering insurance costs, looking at things like that. From a business perspective, trying to help South Carolina-based businesses be able to put more money in their pockets, reduce regulations that affect them, and help our local businesses be more successful and be able to compete against outside internet-based companies that are truly affecting our local businesses.
Gotcha. All right. Well said. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Gavin.
We got Representative Wendell Gilliard.
Yes, sir.
Always good to see you.
It's good to see you, man. Looking sharp every day.
Thank you. Well, Representative Gilliard, tell me about what you heard in the governor's speech tonight, what you didn't hear maybe in his speech tonight.
Well, I didn't hear him damning unions, and when he walked out, I shook his hand out of respect. I told him, Governor, I'm glad in your State of the State address you did not damn labor, and that shows me respect and the other hundreds of thousands of people here in the state of South Carolina. So I did thank him for that. And I also wanted him to remember Minnesota. I wish he had inserted in his State of the State about the two people that died unjustly, Ms. Good and Mr. Alex Pretty. If he had that in there, I thought it would have said volumes, okay? I don't like the fact that he's, walking out under our Constitution, can't get elected again, but he did not get the hate crime bill on his watch. I would have loved to seen that. That's H 3039. That's the Senator Clemente Hate Crime Act. I thought he would have gone out with a little respect, knowing that senator, along with those other 8 fine people, lost their lives unjustly, and we brought him up here in a casket, and everybody held hands and cried and sang Jesus this and Jesus that, but yet we cannot get a hate crime law here in the state of South Carolina. So I would have loved to see that on his watch.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Representative.
And thank you for letting me have the time.
Sure thing.
All right.
And we got Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett with us. Welcome aboard. Good?
Thank you.
Right there.
You're pointing,
You're right
I'm
there.
standing right here.
Lieutenant Governor, tell us about the governor's speech. You've been with him since the beginning.
Yeah.
What stood out to you? What really resonated for you in that speech as you look back in his career?
Well, I'm looking in watching him give his speech. It's just his unbelievable pride and commitment to this state. And he's a history buff. Everybody that knows and loves the governor knows that. And he kind of teased that fact out to me a few weeks ago. He wanted to put a lot of South Carolina's history. His message today, as it's been since I've been his running mate, is make the children proud of this state that we're a part of, and just the rich history and where we started and where we came from. I think it came through loud and clear. Talking about our accomplishments, as I sat there and read that, it was like, my goodness, has it been that long? And wow, I'm proud of all we've accomplished.
Yeah, natural disasters, COVID, seeing things through, and then now, of course, the state, being the #1 state in the country for people to move to and growing.
Exactly. And just kind of what he wants the legacy of this state to be and what the governor wants his legacy to be. And he wrapped that into conservation. And, it's something we've talked about an awful lot. Profitability and sustainability are not mutually exclusive anymore. And the governor, I'm really proud that's something that he has done a lot, conserving land, making sure that our children, our grandchildren are able to hunt and fish and hike on all the things that we enjoy doing today.
And then, Lieutenant Governor, we heard from Representative Jermaine Johnson, who's a Democrat running for governor. We'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the fact that you are also running to succeed the governor. We're not going to make this into a campaign speech, but we have been asking folks about what they want to see in a successor. So I guess when you hear him talk about, keeping things going, how do you see it from your perspective as Lieutenant Governor in terms of what do you think the legislature needs to do to keep that momentum going in the state?
Well, I think they need a governor who has worked with this incredible governor to keep that momentum going forward. I think the one thing that I'm proud of is the fact that the governor and I have always had such a great relationship with the General Assembly, and that's how we've been able to get all those things done. And the governor talks about it, and he always has. Communication, cooperation, and collaboration, it is the key. That's what I hope to be as the next governor, somebody who continues to work with the General Assembly to get things done for the people and continue this amazing legacy that the governor talked about. Continue it on for 8 more years.
Again, we're trying not to campaign because Jermaine did, but we'll leave it at that in just terms of what you want to see the legislature accomplish this year. They're off and running right now. Anything that's sticking out to you, any big priority that you want to see them accomplish before May?
Absolutely. Infrastructure, it was the first thing we announced in our executive budget, $1.1 billion to accelerate infrastructure projects. It's extremely important no matter where you go in the state. Want to see us hit those teacher pay raises. I'm very confident that we're going to get there. We continue to focus on energy. Energy is what's going to keep this state growing, making sure that we have ample energy so we can get the careers of tomorrow and the businesses of tomorrow to come right here to South Carolina.
That's right. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor. A little surprise, but thank you.
I know. Well, thank you so much. Always great to see you.
Great. I think we have Representative Andy McDaniel coming up too.
Perfect.
So yeah. Representative McDaniel, good to see you. Tell us what you thought about the governor's speech. You're in there. You heard him talk. You've seen him talk before. What stood out to you this year?
Well, I heard the governor's speech. I listened closely. He was a lot more calmer this year than what he normally is. He didn't make any strikes out against anyone. I love the fact that he talked about some of the things that on the horizon. He talked about VC Summer Nuclear Plant, which is in my district. The benefits to Fairfield County, I think, are going to be great. You know, he talked about education. Some of the things I was just a little concerned about was during the education component, he didn't talk enough about how we strengthen our public schools. You know, we put the vouchers out there and we have all the competition going, but we know that the public schools, those are the ones that causes the great equalization of all aspects. So it would be nice if he had talked a little bit more about public education, as well as the vouchers in charter schools.
And how would you describe maybe your relationship with the governor, Democrats' relationship with the governor? Obviously different parties, but when you look at that over the past 9 years and how long you've been working with him, what stands out to you? How do you contrast that?
Yes, I think we have differences when it comes to ideology, but when it comes to us hanging out and just having fun and seeing each other at receptions, we have a great relationship. We don't fight, we don't yell at each other. We just know that we have those differences, and when it comes time to pass legislation, then we vote our conviction and they vote their conviction, and of course he have his party vote his conviction. Yes.
Right, and then you have an open primary for the Democrats and the Republicans, and obviously the Democrats you're more interested in, of course, but what do you want to see in the next governor, regardless of who wins in November? What do you want to see?
I want to see the next governor focus on things that improves people's quality of life, making sure that when companies come into the state that they don't wait until all of the tax incentives have been used up and then they leave. Make sure that there are community benefit agreements so that they're good partners, that they help with making sure that the communities are thriving and have some things that they probably would not have if they didn't have those agreements with the companies. Want to see them focus on education, focus on every child having that opportunity to, whether they want to go to higher ed or whether they want to go to the military, whatever they want to do, that we set that pathway for them so that they're ready.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Well, Representative McDaniel, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with that concludes our coverage of Governor Henry McMaster's 9th and final State of the State address. But our State House coverage does not end here. You can stay informed on the latest State House action by listening to South Carolina Public Radio, the South Carolina Lead podcast every Tuesday and Saturday, and our new blog, The State House Gavel, every day, Tuesday through Friday at scetv.org/The Gavel. And join me Friday evenings at 7:30 for This Week in South Carolina for insight and coverage on the top news of the week. And me and Maayan Schechter give you an overview every legislative day at the start of Gavel to Gavel coverage on ETV World. Tune in for that. It's always a fun time. I'm Gavin Jackson from all of us here at SCETV in South Carolina Public Radio. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe and good night.